I want to say thank you for staying back and joining us this afternoon. And without any further ado, just want to invite Pastor Darren Pratt to come up. He's going to be talking about tweens, teens, and the power of authentic parenting.
Thank you. Yep, thank you. Well, thank you. And part 3 of our series. So for those that weren't here this morning, for whatever reason, or those that are watching online, there are 2 other parts that you can catch up with that sort of back up what I'm going to say this afternoon. I'm sort of building on what I presented this morning, and this one's going to look more into technology and the brain and why we need to parent in this space because of what's happening in the teenage brain. So that's where we're going this afternoon. Some have asked how long. I expect around about 45 minutes. That's sort of what I'm looking for, so we'll see how we go. But depends how excited I get, so we'll see what happens. Before we get into it, let's pray. Loving Father in heaven, as we spend time again this afternoon looking at technology, it's great. It's such an awesome to have so much awesome technology at our disposal. But it's also some distractions and some dangers, and we just pray today as we discuss this and what it means for us as parents, grandparents and mentors. Just bless our presentation and may you speak into it. This we pray in thy name. Amen. Amen. As I said this morning, George Barnes' book said the enemy has plans for our children. The question is, do we? He also identified, as Ellen White identified, the 4 to 14 window. And of course, Jesus says, let the children come to me and don't hinder them. And the question I ask is, what do we do or don't do that hinders our children from getting to Jesus? And why is it that the enemy has plans for that 4 to 14 window where crucial development and crucial decisions are being made which have lifelong consequences, which we'll talk about this afternoon. So, I preface today with the Bible text speaks into today more than ever. In Psalm 46 it says, be still and know that I am God. In an age of technology, digital noise, white noise I call it, blue light, that is distracting our kids. When do we let our kids get time to be still and know that I am God? I think that text speaks louder today more than ever. And the other text I taught this morning is, be alert on a sober mind. Your enemy, the devil, prowls around like a roaring lion, seeking who he may devour. And I think today's presentation will look at some of those things that are occurring as well. When it comes to technology, Common Sense Media Report says teens spend an average of 7 hours and 22 minutes on their phones daily, let alone anything else, on their phones. That's a lot of time. And tweens are not far behind. We call tweens age 9 to 12, and tweens is the area where a lot of books are being written right now. Tweens is the new space where a lot of work's been done. That's age 9 to 12. And the report says not far behind at 4 hours and 44 minutes daily, or just last week I read that's gone over 5 hours now. 5 hours now that our tweens are spending on their phones, let alone any other screen or device. Pardon? Yeah, yes. And this amount of screen time does not include time spent on schoolwork, online reading and listening to music, which are all good things. So it doesn't include that. This is beyond that, which is of concern. 32% of teens said they read for pleasure less than once per month. Less than once per month. I'm so glad my mum gave me the gift of reading. She had all of us children, 6 children in the family. She was busy. She said she wanted to have at least 2 girls, so she had my brother Lauren and my sister Nerly, pigeon pair. Then decided to have a third one, so Darren came along. Then she wanted another girl, so 3 years later she had Brendan. 3 years later she tried again for a girl, she had Ray. And then 6 years below that she thought, I'd try one more time, and she had Greg. I remember saying to her best friend, I talked to her recently, she said to Bev, I don't know why I keep having boys, I just want one more girl. And I just give up. And Bev said, who knows, Greta, God might be raising up a generation of pastors. That's what she said when we were all little tackers. And 4 of us are pastors. And now my son is a pastor and my niece is a pastor. And that prophecy of that best friend, God has a plan. But Mum used to make us all, 6 children, read to her daily, 20 minutes, just reading to her while she was getting dinner ready, whatever else. She would have us sit there and read to her. And a love for me of reading developed, and my passion now is reading. So often what I'm saying to you is I read lots and lots and lots and lots of books, and that's thanks to my mum. And then I summarise it and present it. So if you come to my office, I've got books all over my desk and by my bed. I've got a pile that's high. I say just having a pile by your bed makes you more knowledgeable. I don't know if that's true or not, but sometimes you've got to open them. But yeah, I love, my favourite hobby apart from poultry, twisting balloons, is going to a bookshop and just browsing. And yeah, if I'm going to a town, I'll say, where's the closest bookshop? And I'll go and discover some gold that I can take home. But yeah, 69% of teens watch online videos every day. I ask the question, if this is true, who is parenting our children? Who is parenting our children? That's something to think about. By age 11, 53% of our kids have a smartphone. By age 12, 69%. As I said in a recent school presentation I was doing, my mother was worried about her 4-year-old missing out because the rest of her class all had a smartphone in the kindy class. And so yeah, that's just a worry at that age. Most time online is spent consuming and passive viewing rather than creating their own content. And when they're creating their own content, that's different to consuming and passive viewing. You can see I'm not against technology. I think we need to develop, as Dr. Christy Goodwin calls, guardrails around what we have, because technology is here to stay. We can't just bin it. I love to bin some stuff as a dad, but we can't. It's here. Our kids want it. Our kids are drawn to it. It's designed in such a way so it's marketed to our kids, and we need to learn to parent in that area. One of the things that I often asked to talk about is sexting, and do a lot of presentations in schools around this. At least 1 in 4 teens are receiving sexually explicit emails and texts. 1 in 7 are sending sex texts. More than 1 in 10 teens are forwarding sex without consent. About 1 in 12 teens have sex forwarded without their consent. This is the world that our kids are living in, where mobile phone is used to bully. I was just reading a report just this week as well about the amount of our kids who are getting targeted by online, you might call them exploiters or pedophiles, who get our kids and groom them to send naked pictures of themselves and then blackmail them for money or other things to stop them from publishing that stuff and sending it to people. And there's kids get drawn into this very quickly. And it happens more than what we realise, and they are able to isolate the kids from their parents so that by the time they've sent that first nude, they wouldn't want to talk to their parents about it because they're too embarrassed. And that is happening on a more and more regular basis to our kids today. And of course, cyberbullying. 53% of young Aussies report being cyberbullied. 79% of children, that's reporting, 79% of children aged 10 to 18 have been bullied on YouTube. Only 21% of Australian teenagers reported online harassment to an educational institution. Less than half of Aussie teens that were bullied online spoke to their family or friends about it. And only half of the female victims of cyberbullying are younger women aged 18 to 24. That's what's happening in our world right now. As you see, it isolates our kids, it disconnects them and exploits them. 37% of women felt physically threatened on the internet. 17.9% of cyberbullying cases in Australia were racially motivated. Facebook disabled more than 1.3 billion fake accounts in 2020 alone. 30% of cyberbullying victims had experienced harassment in their school, and in 2019, 42.4% of Aussie teens reported that they had witnessed cyberbullying. That's phenomenal. The enemy has plans for our children. The question is, do we? Cyberbullying statistics show that cruel mistreatment can easily lead to depression, anxiety, and even suicidal thoughts, destroying one's mental well-being. And often we as parents and adults don't know about it because the kids are told not to talk about it, or else they're going to do something to the family, etc., etc. It really is a field day online if your kids are connected. In a nutshell, David Gillespie, he wrote this book, Teen Brain. He also wrote the book Sugar Poison years ago. So this guy's a lawyer in Australia, and he spends his time researching topics and then presenting about them. And his wife said, "You should look into this and what it's doing to our kids." And he said, "Oh, surely not. Technology? Kids love it." But he says what he found was an eye-opener. He says, in a nutshell, says the biology of puberty makes the teen brain uniquely fragile. It makes teens susceptible to addictions that can last a lifetime and usher in mental illness. What he found was the same pathways that years ago was tobacco addiction or alcohol addiction or porn addiction, gambling addiction, the same pathways that lead to those addictions in the brain that become fixed over time and are hard to break are the same ones that are stimulated and developed on screen, gaming, social media, whatever addiction. The same pathways, and that is scary. That, if you like, the mobile phone can be a gateway drug for addiction and for lifelong addiction in the teenage brain. And look at what's happening in the teenage brain shortly. Parenting is much more permissive today, he said, and especially in this space, we as parents need to harden up, he says. This is David Gillespie talking, to save their kids. He said unfettered access to screens is driving an epidemic of addiction, depression, anxiety, the likes of which we have never witnessed before. He said, what I found was frankly terrifying. In less than a decade, and we talked about that decade this morning, since 2010, we've totally changed the future of the human race, and we've done it without so much as a backward glance. For the first time in history, kids know more about something than we do. In other words, if I want to get my phone fixed, I ask an 8, 9, 10-year-old. And they know what to do, what to toggle, what to fix to make it work again. I don't. Our kids are almost born knowing what to do. And it's designed that way. The people that create this technology know exactly what they need to do. They know exactly how to create it. They know exactly how to prime it so that our kids are drawn to it. Especially if they're neurodiverse, ADD, whatever else. Technology is a natural for them. And yeah, in his other book he wrote called The Great Brain Reset, and again, it's well worth getting and reading if it's still on our bookstore screens, a bestseller. So just like with sugar, most Australians are now addicted to some form of electronic, he calls it, dopamine stimulator. It might be sexual porn. If your child has a mobile phone in their bedroom or have access to a friend's mobile phone at school, which is what generally happens, they have 90% have viewed pornography by the age of 11. And often we haven't even had the birds and bees talk to our kids yet. My son Andrew told me only the other day, he said when he got to high school, the first day in high school, he had his JW friend show him pornography, and so the images he saw on that day, he can never get out of his mind. It wasn't just what you call soft porn, it was hardcore, violent porn, which is what most kids are seeing online. And our kids are taking their sexual script from what they're viewing online and then try and experiment with that with their girlfriends and boyfriends later on. And if you want to know more about this, there's a friend of mine called Melinda Tankard-Wrist who grew up in the same town as I did, by the way, Mildura, and she started a group called Collective Shout, which you can find online and join. And they go around finding companies that are pornifying our society, and they stand against it. They stand against it. She's a Christian. She doesn't put it out there because the Wales has come at her, but she is what you call an undercover Christian who is out there in society, out in our media, calling out what society is doing to our children. And we need to pray for her and thank her for what she's doing. Melinda Tankard-Wrist. You Google her, you find a lot of stuff about her. She says, also they call it approval porn, which is social media, wanting your likes and your tweets and your comments on social media. That's addicted to approval porn, they call it, which is more so for girls. Danger porn, gaming, more so for boys. The idea of the near miss. And games are designed with this idea of danger involved. The boys out on a mission, the sense of adventure, the almost winning and then doing it again. Games like Fortnite have hit the jackpot with this because it is an online game. You play it for 20 minutes, you're on an island, you're with your avatar mates and they all log in and you play a game for 20 minutes where it's the survival of the fittest. You can't get off it during that time. And you're talking to each other online while you're doing it. And he said that combination is the perfect mix of addiction for our kids, and often you'll see our kids playing it for 4, 5, 6 hours or more without even a backward glance if they're allowed to. So yeah, the gaming world today is ramped up. It's not a snake game it used to be or some of those games. This is online, real life avatar stuff. It's also interesting in those games appear to be harder to police and harder to put parental guidance involved. Although even with X-rated or PG or whatever else on it, grandmas buy the game called Grand Theft Auto for their grandchildren. In that game, as part of it, you've got to go and pick up a prostitute and kill her, violently kill her. And it's almost like in real life you're doing this. And this is what our grandmas are buying for our young boys, thinking it's just a car game. And also in those games, it's interesting to note that as men go through a lot of those games, they gain more armour as they level up. As the female avatars go through those games, they lose their armour and lose their clothing. And it's harder to police in that space. Or all of them, he says, but the addiction is there, according to Gillespie, and so are the consequences. Gillespie says, you want to see what addiction looks like with your kids, try taking their social media away, or their phones, for a period of time, and see how they react. Or, he says, try putting your phone away and see how long you can leave it without picking it up. He said that's the first sign of addiction. He said the grumpiness, the temper tantrums, the screaming and the yelling are all the early signs of addiction. And he said he tells extreme stories in his work, in his book he's written. And if you want to hear the summary, a couple of years ago he actually talked about his book as he was writing it on a podcast called Conversations. ABC podcast, Conversations, Richard Fidler. If you Google that, I know you've got to go online and find it, but Google that, and I'll do the podcast when I'm driving, and David Gillespie does a 1-hour podcast on these books. And so you want to get a summary while you're driving, that's the best way to do it. He tells a story of one mother throwing the game station into the pool, and the child dressed in uniform diving out after it to try and catch it before it lands in the pool, because she was so fed up with what it was doing to her family. Or another young son, his device was locked up in the car because of a punishment, breaking the windows to get it out. He says if that's not addiction, he doesn't know what is. But he said even us as adults can't walk away and leave our mobile devices for long. And he said it is having an effect on all of us. Anxiety and depression in teens, talked about this morning, has doubled in the decades since these dopamine stimulators, I like the term he uses, became part of every teenager's life, and the rest of us are catching up fast. The enemy has plans for all of us. The question is, do we? Another book I read recently, Dr. Anna Lemke, Dopamine Addiction or Dopamine Nation. She says that we are living in a time of unprecedented access to high reward, high dopamine stimuli. Drugs, food, news, gambling, shopping, gaming, texting, sexting, Facebooking, Instagramming, YouTubing, tweeting. And she says the increased numbers, variety and potency are staggering. She says, not me, she says the smartphone is the modern day hypodermic needle, delivering digital dopamine 24/7 for a wired generation. I'll talk about dopamine in a minute. Dopamine's not a bad thing, by the way, but it can be used for wrong, which we'll look at in a moment. In fact, we're going in there now. We're going to explore the teen brain and what is going on and why technology and screens we have to parent in this space. This is a brief tour into what's going on in our teen's brain. The brain begins to develop in utero during the 3rd week of gestation and is complete by the age of 25. Hang on. When do kids get their licence? And why do insurers not offer good insurance till they turn 25? Because they know that the kid's brain is still developing. And they know that they're more likely to do something stupid before the age of 25. And we often back off in this space, but the brain doesn't finish developing until the age of 25. So that has huge implications for us. From birth to 18 months, the brain triples in size to 75% of its adult size. It grows more slowly to 90% of its size by the age of 11. During this time, neurons, synapses are connected and pathways are being made that become increasingly hardwired. Use it or lose it, is a saying here. And so this is why when it comes to our kids, we need to offer balance, variety and moderation. We want that brain to grow to its full maximum. Good diet, good exercise, good variety, reading for pleasure, exploring, creating, getting them outdoors, all of those things. Variety, balance, moderation, to grow that brain to its maximum. The whole presentation I could do on just teaching your kids a musical instrument. Doesn't matter what it is, but music and the brain and development and what it does for them academically and what it does for them, their creativity and for reaching their life goals. There's so much around music and the brain development. So that's why it's important that we give them variety, balance and moderation. They reach the teenage years and the brain now, when they reach the teenage years, at the same time as puberty, has to begin to change from their child brain into their adult brain. And so it's wanting to make the brain more efficient, wanting to make it ready for what those adult years are going to bring. And so during this time, a massive synaptic pruning occurs. It looks at what pathways are being used, what pathways are not being used to make the brain more efficient. Okay, this person is a couch potato. They lie on the couch, they watch TV, they watch screens, they play games. So we're going to make them a really good gamer. So we're going to shut down that part, because they don't go outdoors, they don't exercise, they haven't learned a musical instrument, so it's shutting down that path down. They're not doing this, they're not doing that. We want this brain to be as efficient as possible. And so the synaptic pruning of what pathways are not being used are pruned off or shut down to enhance the ones that are being used to grow that brain to the adult brain. As the saying, use it or lose it, really occurs here. So during the teenage years, because this pathways are being formed and the brain is going through its movement, your teenager will become forgetful, your teenager will become vulnerable, and your teenager will become confused. There'll be disorganisation and massive mood swings. Your child will start to forget things they never forgot before. They will become moody and snappy. This is what happened to my daughter. I remember talking to someone a bit older and said, what do I do? My Madison. There's a moody, I don't even know who she is anymore. That she's moody and she flips from here to here. And she says, and he says, it's a bit like a fish tail. When you catch a fish and its tail's going backwards and forwards. I said, yeah, you described it well. One minute she's fine, next minute she's not my Madison, she's some monster. And this person's advice to me was, and she's now 23, and it's a different world today, but his advice to me was strap yourself in, maintain connection, and don't sweat the small stuff. And that really spoke to me, and my Madison has now re-emerged, and she's just as beautiful as ever. Because I fought for that connection and I didn't sweat the small stuff and I just hung in there as a dad. It says there, these all go out the window, all this stuff, and won't return until the age of 18 years, begins to come back. So this is why we need to lean in. Often we as parents say, oh, my teen, we leave them in their room. At least on their device, they're quiet. That's why we hand our kids a mobile phone. Even in church, because it keeps them quiet, keeps them occupied. In fact, the sales said this morning, the sale of pacifiers has dropped because the mobile phone is a better pacifier. And pushers are now invented. You can buy them. They have a screen holder, one for the child and one for the adult on the pusher. And so the child is pushed along and they're watching their favourite show while the mother or father is scrolling and screening or talking, and that eye-to-eye connection is a worry. Even breastfeeding now, they're saying mothers, put the phone away when you breastfeed because that eye contact, that connection is so important. And a lot of mothers are mindlessly scrolling while their baby's breastfeeding. Put the phone away. That eye-to-eye contact when you're breastfeeding mum is so important in building that lifelong connection. The phone is dominating everything. So let's look at some of the things happening in the brain. As the brain is growing, myelin is being laid down. It grows like a sheep around the axons and neurons. For adolescents, this means that the pruning down of existing neurons and the laying down of myelin sheaths, connecting the remaining linked connections. That's all occurring. And so the brain increases in weight. A lot of that weight is this myelin that's being laid down around those axons and neurons and synapses that are being protected and enhanced and built for the adult teenage brain. Number two, the melatonin transmitter that regulates sleep-wake cycle. Once puberty begins, melatonin release declines. Add in social media use, gaming, and we have a parenting storm in the making. So your child's sleep patterns will suddenly change and they have more trouble getting to sleep. And then when you add into that the mobile phone and they call it white noise, and the blue light they call it, which is the light that the phone emits. That's why you wake up at night, they say don't reach for your phone, because the light from it reaching the back of your eye wakes you up rather than keeps you in that sleep cycle. I like using my phone as a torch, but they say find something else rather than a light or a low light that can help you go to the bathroom, whatever you need to do to get you back to sleep. But if you're allowing the phone in the teenage bedroom, it's the beeps, it's the tweets, it's the buzzes, it's the connectivity that is upsetting their sleep patterns. Or if they're gaming, it's all of that dopamine and adrenaline in the system, which is interacting with the sleep cycle and is disrupting the sleep cycle. That's why experts say if you want your child or yourself, by the way, to go into that sleep pattern, then as part of your technology agreement, all technology an hour before bedtime, at least an hour, is switched off. That allows your brain to come down into its sleep cycle, and you're going to get better sleep for you and your teen. So an hour before you want to go to bed, put devices away. Don't have devices in the bedroom of any kind. Is a big clue when it comes to this, to allow that important 8 hours of sleep to occur. Also in the teenage brain, the dopamine is happening, the feel-good chemical, makes us want to things like food and drink through to social acceptance. It motivates us to get up and do things. It's good. But dopamine was made for us to be outside and to be, as I said, hunting or chasing or gardening and enjoying the things that are outdoors. And you get, when you do those feel-good things, or even eating, when you do those feel-good things, you get a little dopamine hit that makes you feel good. And that's fine. That's fine. That's what it's for. If you don't have dopamine, you won't eat. You won't feel like eating. They've tried this on rats where they've inhibited the dopamine release, and the rats just wouldn't eat, even with food placed in front of them, because there's no dopamine to make them want to. So dopamine is good, but when it comes to our screens and social media and gaming, that dopamine hit is going bang, 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 bang all the time. Every time you get a little like and a tweet, the brain goes ding, dopamine hit, you feel good. And then when you do a gaming and you almost win, ding, you feel good. And this is where it's playing into, is that the brain is not made, especially the teenage brain, for that constant dopamine hit, wanting more and more and more and more. And what's good can cause an issue when our kids are online, as I say, 40 hours in any average week. Once we get the reward, serotonin is released. So while dopamine is at its high peak, the serotonin is dropping slightly in teens. So they don't get the same hit, but the dopamine's at its highest. And so that combination is leaving the brain open to addiction in the teenage years because of the dopamine and serotonin and what it's doing. And dopamine's at its highest during those teenage years because of the teenagers growing into an adult and it's needing that dopamine. But when screens are added in, it can be a danger. Serotonin kicks in and makes us feel calm and relaxed, especially when we feel wanted, important and proud, which is what every teenager wants. Serotonin affects mood fluctuations, anxiety, impulse controls. Serotonin also plays a powerful role in our moral judgment, decision making and moral behaviour. There's a temporary decline in the teenage years. So your dopamine's pinging off. The serotonin is meant to kick in after that. It has dropped in the teenage years, allowing that brain to develop into the adult brain. And it's a really worrying combination occurring there, allowing addiction to kick in. Then oxytocin, more so for female, but also for males. Reward for bonding with others stimulates the release of dopamine and serotonin. In addition to dopamine, oxytocin facilitates bonding, makes social connections more rewarding. With both dopamine and oxytocin engaged, it is no wonder that adolescents seek peers and excitement in their lives that could end up actually harming them. Because they want to take risks. They want to go beyond. They want to bond, they want to connect. It's natural for the teenager to want to do that. But you can see how it can also lead to danger, and insurers know that. Then there's this interesting one, gamma aminobutyric acid, or GABA. It's the inhibitor, or the braking system in the brain is low at this time. This is what calms anxiety and impulsivity, regulates the ups and downs. It's the brake. For us, when we've eaten enough, it tells us to stop. Or when we've been online and played a game or two, our brain tells us, you've had enough, get off. With teenagers, there's no breaks. That's why they'll play for 7, 8, 9 hours at a time on games online or scroll or whatever else without even realising the time. Because the braking system is off so the brain can develop into its adult brain. That's why we as parents need to lean in and be the brakes and say, you've been online now for 1 hour, it's time to get outside. Is lean in and parent, because the brakes aren't there. We need to be the brakes. And often in teenage years we back off, especially in technology we back off, we don't understand it anyway. It's the very time we need to lean in as a parent and be there for our teen. As it says, they're more prone to develop addictive tendencies than at any other time in their lives. An addictive pathway set, because of these chemicals, what's going on in the brain, addictive pathways set during this time are hard to break. Now you say, what about plasticity? Yes, there's a lot of research around plasticity, and there is. The brain can regenerate, the brain can rewire itself, the brain can do that, praise God. But I'd rather have the brain develop the right way the first time than have to try and help it rewire itself. And we can be the parent or the mentor that helps this brain, the teenage brain, reach its optimum. Finally, there's delta phosphate, a sustained molecular switch for addiction. We all have it. It's a regulatory protein that affects the plasticity of our brain. Once switched on, this delta phosphate, which sort of makes our brain more addictive and hardwired, it remains for a while and doesn't go away easily. The only way you can measure this is on a dead person. You can't measure it while they're alive. But they looked at dead people and they found this delta phosphate is still present 9 weeks after death. And they're saying that even after a half hour online, this delta phosphate starts to kick up and kick into the brain, and the addictive patterns are beginning to be set even after a half hour online. That's why they say for every hour online, 2 hours offline. As I said this morning, it's the big takeaway, because it allows the brain to reset. It allows that delta phosphate to kick down. It allows the dopamine levels to kick down and stop those addictive pathways from being formed if we can keep our kids offline for every hour online, 2 hours offline. You see why I have the perfect storm. Technology, screen time, online porn, gaming, social media. Dare I talk about artificial intelligence. That's a game changer that's just happening right now. You think that the internet, digital technology has changed the world? They're saying that AI is going to be the same change, if not more change. It's about to reinvent our society all over again. And even the inventors of AI are saying we need to there's a conference right now in the UK of those people who are invested in this, the inventors and Microsoft, and some of those are pouring billions into AI technology right now. They know something we don't. But the inventors are saying that we need to stop, take a collective pause, and put some guardrails in place. Because while AI might be good, AI can diagnose out back Australia a heart problem in a patient where there's no doctors and recommend treatment. AI can do that now. AI is also growing up fast. It's now reached the age of a teenager. Just a couple of months ago, it learnt the periodic table all by itself at university level. And they say we don't even know what's going to happen as AI is teaching itself. Good? Yes, it's going to be awesome. But the what ifs, they're saying the current US election will be the last election where it's fought Trump versus Biden. Next US election will be totally AI. As in, Trump calls it fake news. You can now create videos and make people say things that looks authentic, looks real. What is truth is going to really come under pressure because you can make AI say anything. And we need to parent in that space. That's the world our kids are going to be. Even now, there's essays being handed into schools that are written by AI. And the teachers need to know which is AI and which is written. They're now sort of looking at teaching backwards, where they'll get the essay and look at how it was put together. It's going to reverse how teaching is done because AI will write, do, create, make. Yeah, brave new world is about to hit. So, has huge implications for parenting. I've said a lot of bad news right now. Here's some good news. This research by Christian Smith and Adam Adamczyk in this book called Handing Down the Faith. And they say some readers might be surprised to know that the single most causal influence on the life of teenagers and young adults is the life of their parents. Not their peers, not the media, not their youth group leaders or clergy, not their school teachers. This is what their research found. Myriad studies show that beyond a doubt, the parents of youth play the leading role in shaping the character of their lives, even well after they leave home, and often for the rest of their lives. Furthermore, they say, this parental influence has not declined in effectiveness since the 1970s. Hey, that's my life. I was born in 1968. And all of this has happened. We look at what's happened in that time. Yet it's saying that despite all that is thrown at us, a connected, invested parent that shows up is far more powerful than any of that. Wow, that's good news for me as a dad and as a granddad. Maggie Dent says, my research showed almost 60% of men surveyed reported their mum was the most important person during their confusing teen years. Wow, mums. You might think like you're denigrated at times, you're yelled at, you're not treated well. By the way, when boys try out yelling and telling the mum what to do, that's when the dad comes in. Says, back off, son, respect your mother. I need a male figure to come in and do that. But a lot of kids are growing up without a present dad, whatever reason. They wonder why we have the misogyny and the violence against women. And I could talk about the fatherless generation that's growing up in our world today. One teacher at my wife's school has taken 2 days leave. She's young. She's beautiful, she's pretty, because the boys just in class just said things that were just, you wouldn't want to hear anywhere. And a dad telling their sons to grow up and respect your mother is powerful. And I'm going to another area, but yeah, that's a little pause, a little outbreak right there. But 6% of men surveyed report their mum was the most important person during their confusing teen years. That's research in Australia by Maggie Dent. If you want to hear some good parenting podcasts, Parental as Anything by Maggie Dent are really good and worth listening to on the ABC. So what do we need? What's the answer to all this? Justin Colson has just written this book, and it's worth getting to a parent, The Parenting Revolution, a guide to raising resilient kids. Fantastic. We're looking at bringing him out into our schools, our Adventist schools next year. Working on that right now. But he says we need needs-supportive parenting. Positive and healthy involvement in your child's life. There's 3 things that we need. And this is positive, healthy involvement in your child's life. The child feels like she is seen, heard and valued. I've said that a number of times today from different authors. Do you see me? Do you hear me? Do you value me? Is the biggest thing that kids are asking. If we can answer those, by the way, they're less likely to leave their screens and engage with their parents and their family. Often they're on their screen because they're bored. They're lonely. No one's home. No one's there for them. And so the screen is just a dependent addiction, if you like, that masks the lack of connection. Connectedness is so important, and that's what everyone's saying. Number 2, he says, need to structure how we construct our children's lives and the boundaries and limits we develop. So important for our kids and our teens. Structure and boundaries. The boundaries say, you do care, you do love me, you do see me. Often when the kids act up, they're just seeing, are the boundaries still there? And the boundaries let them know that the parent is still there. And so important. And he says autonomy support, encouraging children to act with a high level in personal choice in developing into appropriate ways. This is like from a young age, we're going to give our kids autonomy. So today, Madison, my 3-year-old Madison, do you want to wear the blue socks or the pink socks? We give her a choice. And as they grow older, those choices, of course, increase. But we're giving them the power to make their own choices in an empowered way. And that gives our kids autonomy. This is what Colson found. Research emphasises that letting children manage their own media consumption with our gentle guidance, scaffolding and structure is typically more effective than parenting control settings offered by apps. Facebook and iPhone and its counterparts discovered that parents were getting upset about these screens, and so they actually released parenting controls that are available. And there's sometimes a good reason to have those. But we've got to realise we're raising kids to be independent, and somewhere they're going to learn to manage this stuff. So if we can allow them some guidance, some structure in that and work with them, it says, but also be aware of autoplay. Have you noticed with Netflix, you finish one episode, next one starts playing straight away? Addictive design. Infinity scroll, or hiding the time on games, things they play, the time's not present, it's hidden. Designed to keep kids and yourself online for longer. So those addictions are there. If we can avoid those, we're going to help our kids. In another study, parents were asked to be involved with their kids, develop expectations and boundaries together, and give the children a voice on how screen and other activities could work together. This is co-sharing in this. And what Colson found was the results were astounding. With parental guidance and collaboration, children put the screens down and moved on to the next activity without their parents having to intervene. And it happened that way 93% of the time. Interesting. Teaching kids and having that discussion, having that conversation allows them to develop their own boundaries, and you help them put those in place. And of course you're there when those 8 hours or 4 hours or even less is online and they haven't obeyed them. But generally having that discussion and guiding them is better than just saying, we're going to put parental apps and guidance in place that are going to shut your computer down. There's times to do that. But working with kids seems to work better, according to Justin Colson. Is there a need for protective filters and mechanisms? Yes, but so in conjunction with our conversation with your child. And the issue is research says that often a child has only 20 minutes per week of constructive conversation with their dads. 20 minutes. Other than hop in the car, put your homework away or come eat a meal. But constructive conversation in Australia, only 20 minutes per week with dad. Who's parenting our kids is the question. Christy Goodwin, this book's just been released recently. You can see a lot of research coming around this, and Christy Goodwin says we have some hard biological needs that have to be met. I'm worried, she says, our digital habits are encroaching on some of these basic needs. We need to rest, we need to sleep, we need to be physically active, we need exposure to sunlight, and our digital behaviours have all significantly shaped and influenced each of those biological needs in some way. And she says that digital, we need to talk. If we want to thrive, she says, in this digital world that we've all inherited, there are 4 pillars for peak performance that we need to put in place for our teens and for ourselves. The first thing that we have to do, whether we're a parent, a child or an adult, is we have to create our digital guardrails. We have to have some digital borders and boundaries, because we know meters in place, technology seeps into every part of our life. Technology seeps into every part of our life if we allow it to. So her 4 pillars or guardrails are: number 1, we need to have borders and boundaries around digital media and what we do and how long we're on for, and boundaries in place for us and for our kids, where and when and how we use this digital media. Number 2, she calls neuroproductivity principles. She says the brain is designed to do things, to get outdoors, to run and to chase and to play and to experiment and to be involved and to eat and to do creative things. And when we're online, it's going against the very brain principles. And online is designed to keep us online, and we sit there all day. The first thing you do in the morning, we don't say hello to our wife or our husband, we pick up the phone, generally. So a lot of tweets and Facebook comments, he says, according to research, are produced on the toilet. She says it dominates everything, and it goes against the very way that our brains are designed. I wonder why we're stressed. We wonder why we're depressed. We wonder why we're anxious. We wonder why we're burnt out, because this is mucking with our brains and the way our brains are designed. Not just for us, but for our kids. Yes?
What shocked me, I saw they've invented a phone holder to put by the toilet roll.
Oh, come on. You didn't hear that? They're saying they invented a phone holder to put by the toilet. Pity help us. But yeah, we need to make sure that we're aware that our brain wants variety, moderation and creativity. And getting outdoors and growing a veggie patch with your teen is probably the best thing you can do. Again, there's research around getting your fingers in the soil. There's chemicals and hormone stuff in the soil, in the bacteria, that has antidepressant qualities. And just by getting dirt under your nails, I know I'm going to say clean fingernails, but having that dirt under your nails, even for a short time, powerful. And yet most kids don't even know the backyard exists. Or these days with our houses, we're building them so there's no backyard, which goes against the very grain of what our kids are brought up to do. So If you not in the backyard, get them to the playground, or get them to the community garden, or get them somewhere. Get them to the beach, blue space. Get them to the park, green space. Knowing that's going to help your kid and helps their neuroproductivity principles. The third pillar is disabling digital distractions. She says, again, the beeps and the tweets and the likes and the buzzers keep drawing us back to our phone again and again and again, or to our screens. And she says we don't just have one app open. We're watching Netflix. We're keeping on Facebook. We're watching the sport. We're got a Word document open. And you've got heaps and heaps and heaps of things open, and what she calls digital distractions. And it said a beep or a tweet can take us away, and on average it takes us in Australia 20 minutes to get back on task. 20 minutes wasted before we get back to our full productive selves again. So she talks about disabling digital distractions. Interesting with our teens, if they have a computer in their bedroom, you walk in and your teen's a lovely teen doing homework. But why are they doing homework for 6, 7, 8 hours every night? Because they're not doing homework. Research shows that the average teen is having a conversation through one of the apps, or these days through Discord or something else, or they're playing a game and having a conversation and you've got another app open, or they have things open like the calculator app. So when you come in, they close it down. There's a lovely picture of the calculator. They're doing their homework. But behind the calculator is a secret vault for photos that you will never see. And they put a number in the calculator to get access into their private vault. And in case you do see and find it, there's an even more secret vault behind the vault that they want you to see. And so they have the first level where you can see, but oh no, you can't see the other photos. And these are apps that are designed to take the parent out of the picture. They're even able to say to their kids or to their friends, they've got little sayings, parent in the room. So they know if they go silent online, it's because there's a parent in the room. Or another little thing they can send, symbol sends says parent looking over shoulder, which they can send to their friends so that the friends know that the parent's looking over the shoulder. All these things. Digital distractions. That's why I say never allow devices in the bedroom if you can help. We'll talk about that more in a moment when we go through the 12 things. And finally, the fourth pillar is digital disconnection. There is such a thing as airplane mode, or you can find the off button, or you can put the phone out of sight and disconnect. And we need to encourage ourselves and our teens to engage in digital disconnection at regular times during the day. So in light of this, quickly we'll run through Pastor Darren's 12 ways to parent in the digital age. Again, these are what I found worked for myself and for my kids. Not saying I'm perfect, but here's some ideas that may help you parent in the digital age. Number 1, remember you are the parent. Especially in the digital space, know what your child is up to. Research says if we can have the best computer in the lounge room and our kids are doing their homework there, well, they accidentally, most likely, will come across something untoward like porn or something else that is upsetting. If the parent can see that and engage in a conversation around that, that drops the effect of that upon the child exponentially. I wish I'd had that conversation with my son when he saw that violent porn video in Year 7. which still haunts him to this day. I wish I'd known, but I didn't. It happened at school and I wasn't there. But as a parent, as much as possible, know what your child is up to. Take the time to learn technology, know about technology, keep up as much as you can, talk to other parents, talk to the village, and be there together to know what the kids are up to. Number 2, decide together when your child needs a phone and when they need a smartphone. For our kids, it was year 10, 11 and 12. And we held off. We gave our kids permission to say, my parents are stupid. My parents are dinosaurs. My parents just said no, they're silly parents. We allowed them to say that. Use your parents as an excuse because you're not getting a mobile smartphone. They had a Nokia, so we could ring them if needed, after school especially, when we were both out. But they don't need a smartphone. Often a smartphone comes from you, or your grandparent, or your parent. Because, oh, poor little Susie, they need a phone. All the other kids have one. Or we upgrade and say, oh, we'll do our old phone. We'll give it to our children. Here, have an hypodermic digital needle. And we pay for it, literally, with our money and with the consequences. So toughen up and be that weird parent whose kids don't have a smartphone. Your kids will thank you for it later on. Number 3, aim for reasonable use. Notice I'm saying don't ban, I wish we could. Aim for reasonable use. Come up with a tech agreement together of what they're going to do, when they're going to use the phone, how long for, etc., and the consequences around that. And come up with a tech agreement together that you both agree to that's going to work as parents and as children. Allow them input. As Colson says, they're more likely to abide by it if they've had input into it. Number 4, set tech-free zones and times. For example, in our household, bedtimes, bedrooms, no-go zones. Meal times, no-go zones. Car travel, no-go zones. Bathrooms, no-go zones. Where is technology allowed and where it's not, and when. Set those together, and the family knows that they are the family rules that we all agree to, including dad and mum. Number 5, I've said right through today, 1 hour on, 2 hours off rule, for very good reason, allowing the brain to reset and allowing those addictive tendencies to drop. 1 hour on, 2 hours off. So you're going to be online for 1 hour, but you're only going to go outside and you're going to weed the garden, you're going to wash the car, you're going to chop the wood, you're going to milk the cow, whatever. Invent things that your kids can do outside, because we know that outdoors is good. So fine, you're going to scrub the bricks with a toothbrush, whatever it takes, but outdoor things preferably, but 2 hours off, definitely, is going to protect your kids and yourself in so many ways. Number 6, help your child balance online with offline activities, remembering that we want them to create, we want them to exercise, we want them to have sun, we want them to learn an instrument, we want them to have that boring time when they're bored, when good creativity happens. So help them create that habit and ritual that allows them to develop that variety, balance and moderation. Number 7, I think an important one, purchase the best technology and put it in a central place in the house. Kids gravitate to the best technology, so I'm going to invest in the best computer that money can buy and have it in a central spot where kids will gravitate to. And also at that station is a docking station for powering up, powering down, or a lockbox for all devices. and at a certain time at night, all devices are at that spot, and woe betide if I get up and they're disappeared. Woe betide the children. There are consequences, which they're put in place, by the way, which are more draconian than what I would have said. My kids said, okay, if I step up, Dad, I lose my device for 24 hours. I agree with that. Good. That means you got 24 hours where the brain resets. I'm taking that as a dad. And I did that. I did take the device to work with me. Or I hid them in my cupboard. Or I found ways to put that consequence in place, and the kids knew that that would happen. And I had better children because of it. Boundaries, connection, downtime, all of those. A big win for me as a parent and for the child. Number 8, model the behaviour you want to see in your children around tech usage. I can't have my phone if my kids can't. I will put my phone down and take my kids to. I'm going to model what I want to see. The kids know fairness and justice. And if mum and dad are scrolling and they're not allowed to at that time, then it's not going to be a pretty household. And it's a better family if all devices are not there anyway. Number 9, keep the end goals in mind. Focus on the big issues. Sleep, exercise, diet, good routines. Don't sweat the small stuff, but keep the end goals in mind and what you want for your teen, and maintain those. And keep your eye fixed on those. Even if you have those lapses, you've got the end goal, what you want for your kid in mind, you're more likely to achieve them. And keep the bigger picture in mind and pointing your child to that. Going for an exercise outdoors in the bright sun is a win-win, because I'm going with my child, there's connection, there's off-screen, and we're getting the bright sun, and we've got green space or blue space. Wow, it soon adds up. That's why I developed hobbies with my children. Find a hobby you both enjoy doing. The kids will gravitate from their screens to the hobby. Or board games, all sorts of games. There's been a big resurgence in gaming recently. I don't mean online gaming, but go to a good gaming shop, you'll find some good family games, and I could do a presentation just on family games itself and the benefits of connection, of growth, of creativity, of problem solving, of building resilience. So find some good games. There's a whole lot of good games out there thanks to Kickstarter. Games like Throw Burrito, or games like Exploding Kittens, it's called. It's a bad name, but it's a really, really good game. There's some really, really good games that we as a family love to play, even as young adults, and we just love spending time together. And the kids will gravitate from their screens and their bedrooms to a good board game or card game that family play together, or doing a jigsaw puzzle together. Was-jig is called, jigsaw backwards. Was-jig, something like that. Heaps of them, where you don't have the picture, you have a scene, you've got to create the next scene. So the jigsaw puzzle is the next scene, not what you see on the box. And they're fun, doing those together as a family. Was-jig, they're called. But developing good routines is important. Number 10, set clear boundaries so your kids know them, and the consequences for breaking those. Really, really important for the kids' sense of fairness, understanding. If it's really clear, post them on their bedroom walls, post it on the fridge, whatever. Here's the rules, here's the consequences. So they know, and they're more likely to abide by it and understand when you have to put in place the consequences. Number 11, consider technology-free nights or Sabbaths. What do I mean by Sabbaths? There's a whole lot of research around it. It's not just by Adventists, this is by general researchers. around what they call a technology Sabbath, where Friday night, and we as admin should be good at this. Friday night, all your phones, all your devices go into a lockbox. Mine, my wife's, my kids. They're powered down or they're put on the charger in those boxes. There's still the landline. If someone needs to ring, but no one uses that anymore anyway, so that's good. But they stay in there until either Sunday night or Monday morning. And the family doesn't have any digital devices. I was reading a book called Hamlet's Blackberry, and he says in there that first couple of weeks, you'll fight, niggle, groan, whinge. It's coming off. It's the addiction tendency winding down. So that after a couple of weekends, you'll suddenly start to look forward to it. You'll discover that there's neighbours on either side and they're friendly people. You'll discover the backyard and there's a tree you can climb, there's a tree house you can make, there's a veggie patch you can grow, there's board games you can play, there's things you can do together, a slow meal together, and suddenly the lounge room becomes a central place once again rather than the bedrooms, and the family in the end looks forward to their digital free time. And it's ticking the box of all those addictive pathways resetting, those chemicals coming down, it's increasing connection and family time together. It's killing or knocking over a few of those issues and allowing your family to really be the family together. So consider technology-free times or Sabbaths. Number 11, help your child develop a healthy diet, media diet. Balance, variety and moderation. When they're online, are they consuming or are they creating? Is this helpful or is this not so helpful? Is this building up or is this tearing down? Have that discussion. Is this something that's worthwhile doing? And how is it helping you? And what's it doing for you? Have those discussions and conversations, encouraging your kids towards a healthy tech food pyramid, to use your daughter's term, Sue Red's term, the healthy pyramid when it comes to technology, of what they're dieting on. The junk, yes, gaming, social media, I call that the junk. Sometimes there's room for junk, but that's very minimal. But I want my kids to develop, and myself, healthy online habits where I'm creating, where I am enjoying rather than passive consuming. By abolishing any chance of being bored, we have lost the time we used to have to think and process. If we would want to be creators rather than consumers, we need to take a break from our devices and give our brains some room to breathe. That's Greg McKeown from Essentialism. Give our brains the room to breathe. I like that. Christy Goodwin says, I often talk about micro habits. It's not about going through digital detox or a radical overhaul of your digital ways of working. It's just making small little micro adjustments. Simple things like putting your phone somewhere where you cannot see it when you want. Get your deep focused work done. A study told us from University of Boston, Texas, that just seeing your phone, even if it is on silent and face down, if our phone is in our line of sight, it drops our cognitive performance by around 10%. It says, in other words, it dumbs us down. So put your phone out of sight completely and allow you to get some productive stuff done. This book I read just recently, The Power of Fun, How to Feel Alive Again, by Catherine Price. We all love fun. She says the ultimate solution is to create distance from our devices and reconnect our lives. We are trapped in a self-perpetuating cycle. Not only does dopamine pull us back to our devices, but thanks to dopamine, we've been so conditioned to think of checking our devices again and again, so when we can't check, FOMO, fear of missing out, kicks in. What if it's an important call? What if my boss is trying to reach me? What if? What, was that a beep? Was that a buzz? Wonder what that is. Even if it's out of our pockets, I don't know if you've noticed, but you feel a buzz in your hip. Was that my phone's not even there, but my hip's buzzing. That's addiction. That's addiction. And it happens to all of us. Create some distance if you want to have fun, according to Catherine Price. She says, fear of missing out makes it impossible for us to be truly present and to have fun. Have you ever gone somewhere to any family event or to activity with the family? Everyone's phones are out and you're all trying to catch the perfect picture rather than being present in the moment. What I say to parents is take the picture first up. Declare, we're doing picture time right now. Then all the phones go away and you enjoy the time together to truly be present and to truly have fun. Finally, I think this text is relevant today more than ever. Finally, brothers and sisters, when it comes to digital, when it comes to technology, when it comes to our digital lives, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think about such things. I think if we allow that text to permeate our screens, our computers, our eye gadgets, we'll be onto a pathway to better habits, better creativity, more fun, and being present in the moment. Not just for us, but especially for our teens and our tweens when their brains are so vulnerable. Thank you. That's the end of that. If you missed out, might be a few left. I've got summaries of this morning's talk and this afternoon's talk out there as a summary, which I'll put together. It gives you the highlights. Again, they've all been recorded, so they'll be on your church's social media, of all places, if you want to watch those again, or direct a friend or family member to them to have a look at those. Just talking to your elder today, they said because of the youth program and the women's program, a few that should have seen them missed it. So can we do something again next year? My calendar is currently being booked, but your pastor is going to ring me hopefully this week or email me. And we'll have Parenting Reloaded next year sometime here at Dundas. There is other presentations around resilience and other areas of our kids' lives I haven't talked about, which I've already prepared, which are available. I'm always reading, I'm always researching, I'm always thinking, I'm always listening and writing new ones all the time. So you see, I'm passionate about it and I enjoy working in this space. But thank you for having me today. Thank you for staying for the marathon. I know you need to get home soon for your dinner. Mr. Rad, or I know that's not your real name, but Mr. Rad. And others need to get home too, but thank you for staying on and being here for this, and thank you for inviting me. I've enjoyed Dundas. I think you've got something really great here. Your facilities are awesome. An awesome bunch of intergenerational families here. I can see that already. Stick together, work together, be the village together is my recommendation to you. Pray? Yep, let's bow our heads. Loving Father in heaven, we've covered a lot today around our kids, around parenting, and around what it means to connect and be the parent in today's age where there's so many distractions, not just for our kids, but for us as parents too. I pray you'll help us to find ways to use our devices as tools to assist rather than to distract and destroy and tear apart. Help us to choose to stand for you in our families, to realize we only have our kids for a short time. We want to raise them right, to know, love and adore you, to be successful and to find their place in your story, in the world we find ourselves in. We want to raise them to be the modern day Daniels and Esthers and Nehemiahs and little maids, and boy, does the world need those people more than ever. So bless us, bless our homes, bless our families, bless all that we turn our hand to this week as we go out to serve you and worship you in other ways. May we think on these things and put in place some micromanaging habits that set our lives up for the better. As we pray in thy name. Amen. Thank you, and God bless you each one.